We're back once again with the show. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. Well, it is time once again for our Walking Dead fix. It just got to have it because we have not been able to talk to this awesome, awesome young lady right here in quite some time. And I'm just it's my fault more likely, because everything is my fault when it comes to the pop culture cosmos, it seems. But we need to get an update on what's going on with The Walking Dead because there's so much going on. In fact, we want to talk more about the latest, I guess, villainous force that's out there now with the Whisperers and the head of the actual group itself in Alpha. She's here. She's back again. She's back once again, and we truly appreciate to have her back on the show. She is the head of Talking the Dead 18 plus Facebook group on for Facebook, and then also as well on Facebook. Also, she heads up the Walking Dead fan base as well, which has over 50,000 members. And if you are truly a Walking Dead fan, it's something you definitely got to be a part of. It is my good friend. It is Daphne Matthew. And Daphne, I'm just telling you right now, it's just so great to have you back on the show.
Hi, Drury. It's great to be back again.
Well, I tell you what, there's so much to talk about as always when it comes to The Walking Dead because it is so polarizing in what's going on. I was talking a little bit more about with you before we actually got on the air about all the things that are going on, and let's get the stuff out of the way that I know that you like to talk about because I tell you what, there's still a lot of good when it comes to The Walking Dead, and I think what we need to talk about right now is the Whispers and primarily how effective Alpha is on screen. I'm going to paraphrase what you said on Facebook, I guess about 2 weeks ago, and that she is the best, I'm going to say, darn villain ever on the show. And that's saying something when you've had Negan, the governor, and the cannibals, and all that going on when it comes to The Walking Dead. So, why, in your mind, is Alpha the best villain ever for The Walking Dead?
Oh, well, because first of all, she is just so scary. I mean, if you think about it, the last three episodes when it first became known, or actually four, because the Whisperers actually were introduced when at the mid-season finale we finally saw them, and they killed one of a very big major character in Jesus. So, if you think about it, she's not only bad, she is actually smart because, I mean, think about it. Who would have ever came up with hiding yourself amongst walkers by wearing their skin? I mean, that is genius in itself. And what makes it even more scarier now, as you have seen the last couple of episodes, is that when they are, I guess I'll say, invading a community or going after a community, these people are pretty much going to be trapped inside because if they go out, they don't know if it's a real zombie herd or if there are people intermixed within the herd that's going to kill them. So it's really, really, really a scary time for the groups right now, the ones who have actually seen the Whisperers, because who would want to leave home? Now it's like they're trapped within their own communities, and it just gets worse. I'm not gonna lie. What we've seen right now is just the top of the top. This I'll say the top of the icing, for lack of a better word, because it's just going to escalate after this point. Now that we've seen her backstory and know what she is, and she is, in my opinion, pure evil. Okay, we had Negan. We pretty much seen Negan tamed now because a couple of episodes ago when he actually did escape, he went out in the world after 6 years and realized there was nothing left and decided to go back to his cell. I mean, this man was like, prior to the introduction of Alpha, though I'm not going to say he was the worst, because in my opinion, still the governor was the worst villain, because the governor was he was the Mad Hatter of all villains in The Walking Dead at the time. And if you ever read the comics, you would actually know that the governor was way worse than what he was portrayed on the show. So
And I thought he was
with,
pretty. I thought he was pretty evil on the show, personally.
he killed Santa Claus. He killed Santa Claus on the show. He killed Herschel. I mean, really, in front of, and what gets me now that you have a chance to even look at the villains, as far as what they did and what they were capable of doing. Um, the governor killed for no reason. He had no reason whatsoever to kill anybody. He even turned on his own people. He cracked once his daughter was killed. Negan was bad, but he had a logic for what he did. He only actually killed one person. He was provoked to killing Glenn, and that was one of the great debates we still have in my groups, is that everybody still hates Negan because he killed Glenn and Abraham. And he revealed at the end of season 8 that he wasn't even planning on killing Abraham. Abraham was just how should I say, a red shirt because of the fact that he didn't want to kill Rick in front of Carl. And he
Oh,
admitted that.
bringing out that Star Trek reference there.
Yes. Yes. So Negan had a purpose. People don't agree with it, but if you look at it internally instead of looking outside looking in, if you're looking at it from the reverse inside looking out, these people were doing whatever they could to in order to survive. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Rick's group were no angels either. They killed an entire outpost while they were sleeping, on the orders of Gregory. And that's something I talked about within my group too. Some reason, and I gave to the fact why I can relate to Negan and what he did. I like Negan. It doesn't fare well.
No one can walk away from the Walking Dead as being an angel
No,
in any sense. Like you said, Rick has had his demons and his skeletons in his closet, and his followers have done some things that, in a different time, in a different point of light, it would be questionable, because, like you said, they've done some very questionable things themselves, even though they've been portrayed as the quote unquote good guys. I want to ask you, while you're on Negan, and I know you get a lot of feedback from everybody, especially when it comes to the Walking Dead fan base, because it is so huge. Is there a underlying thinking amongst the group that the killing of Glenn and Abraham was the turning point in the series as a whole?
I do believe so. I think I'll say it honestly, the downward spiral as far as ratings go happened with Glenn and Abraham, not only because they were, how should I say it, beloved characters, because they still are. I mean, even in death, they're still very popular. If you go to the conventions, people still love them, people still talk about them. I think it was the beginning, I'll say, of, how should I say, quote unquote, the end as far as large numbers, as far as the ratings go, because not only were they killed, it was the violence behind it. Now, if I go back to seasons or 3 seasons, I'll say to the end of season 6, when Negan was first introduced, we knew somebody was going to die. All throughout the summer, it was pretty much established that it was going to be Abraham. And there was and like I said, the reason behind Abraham even getting killed was in Negan's thinking, or Negan's, I'll say, moral code. He will not kill a person in front of their child. Okay. And that's what his reasoning was. He killed Abraham because of that. And also the second reason is because if you looked at Abraham was a beast. Okay. He was not afraid of Negan, even kneeling when he was doing his eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Or before he even did that, when he was sitting there just talking his trash talking the whole group. Not Negan. Abraham did not look afraid. Abraham actually raised up a little bit, like, okay, come on, bring it. And he felt that Abraham was a threat. So he figured take out the big guy and the rest will fall, which pretty much happened. Glenn, and like I said, it's not popular on any group I'm in. It's not a popular reasoning, but Glenn died because of Daryl. If Daryl had not struck Negan, Negan would have just killed the one. But Negan is all about show, and Negan is all about, you know what? I have to put these people in their place. So therefore, I gotta kill somebody else. And he chose Glenn for the second death because first of all, Glenn kind of like broke rank when he tried to get towards Maggie when he saw that she was there and she was sick. And also, like I said, because Daryl slapped him. I mean, come on. That man is big. He was coming out there big as day, and then all of a sudden you gotta let somebody slap you. Nah, that wasn't gonna happen.
What?
That was
Oh, okay. I was
oh,
going to say, I mean, you have like I said that Alpha is the biggest threat as far as The Walking Dead is concerned, and the best villain ever on the show. Do you see at some point, like when we talk about Negan, and you said he is so disenchanted with what's going on with the world 6 years later after his reign, that he actually went back to his cell? Do you see a point at some time where the writers can go ahead and put Negan in a much better light, and hopefully even become a point as far as him being able to carry the show? Because we've talked so much about departures coming up in the show that have happened already and that are coming up even more when Denai Guerrera leaves, and also other possible rumored departures, and that you've been actually trying to break down when it comes to what's going on with the group. Because I know a rumor, be it false or not false, that Carrie Payton, aka King Ezekiel, might be leaving. That's another high profile departure. But when it comes to that and those departures are happening, is it time to, let's say, maybe have Negan hit a bigger spotlight and maybe work in the favor of the actual survivors at this point in time?
well, if they go, and I'm going to say this lightly because they always they change things from the comic universe exponentially. They killed off Carl, and Carl's death. Backtracking a little bit before I answer your question, Carl's death was what caused the show to go down. Because Carl's death set off a chain of events within the actors themselves in which they can't overcome. I mean, Carl was fired. Everybody knows that. The pretty much confirmed truth came out a couple of weeks ago, and I addressed it on the board about he was fired. He actually spoke recently that he feels that part of the reason that he was let go from The Walking Dead was that at a certain point on the show, and I'll say maybe it was between seasons 5 and 6, Carl's performance was, we'll say, for lack of a better word, pretty much dull, lackluster. Somebody actually made a comment to him. He said that he was a terrible actor, and basically what he did was took it upon himself and critiqued his own performances. And yeah, between seasons 5 and 6, I mean, he was in his last couple of years of high school, so he said he was focusing a lot on school, so he could see where his performance suffered. So the decision to kill off Carl has set a chain of events in which Andrew Lincoln has left, um, in which that the show is trying to rebound, but I think the phrase too little too late is starting to play out because, as you pointed out to me before we went live, is that last week's episode, not the one that just aired on Sunday, the previous week, was 4 million and change. So it was
Yeah,
very low, even with the introduction of Alpha.
it was
Um,
4.5 million, as far as
yeah,
the demographic 18 to 49, which is the key
right.
demographic, which at this point is at an all-time low for this series. And we're not even talking about this week, because we're going to throw this week out of the we're going to throw this week out the window because of the Oscars. Oscars actually rose up about 10 to 12%. So that's obviously going to offset anything that The Walking Dead can
Right.
do. So those numbers are going down. Although like you've always said, there is always delayed viewing when it comes to The Walking Dead. It is one of the larger entities out there that gets a growing, even more growing audience that wants to go ahead and tune in at a later time. But still, those numbers up front are fading and fading fast. The departures, whether they're rumored or not so rumored, that's got to hurt. And like you said, Chandler Riggs being fired, let's just say, let's call it like it is. It looks like he, for all intents and purposes, he was fired. His dad is still moaning and groaning everywhere. We hear that all the time. And then also
Yeah.
you have Andrew Lincoln. That's the key departure because, as I've told you before, it's very hard to have a face of the show for close to 10 years suddenly leave and actually still have a show worth watching for a lot of people out there. That's very hard for them to go ahead and accept. And
Right.
then you have Denai Guerrera, who you and I both talked about. Her rocket, it's like a rocket going
She's
out of the
off the
stratosphere.
stratosphere right now. She is
Yeah.
definitely off the stratosphere. And she actually, and she made it known this was her first ensemble re- real role on television because she's been in the industry for over close to 20 years, but she's never done a show. So her decision to depart, and I'm going to say it like this: a lot of shows don't you and I'll agree with you, don't make it after major characters leave. One of the things about The Walking Dead that could save it is that it's ever changing. It's not something that, like we'll say, like a show like Friends, where the cast is the cast. The five people sitting on the sofa doing, or Seinfeld people. If you lost one of those characters, that would have killed the show. But since The Walking Dead, I mean, we for 7, 8 seasons, we were blessed with having Andrew Lincoln be the face of the show. It could survive with it. I think it's struggling right now, but I could see The Walking Dead recover because right now their storyline is just so amazing. I mean, even the backstories, because what they did that they had never done in the show before is that they addressed the backstory of the villain in her second full episode. So we actually got to see that Alpha wasn't made as somebody of a I'm going to say victim of circumstance of the zombie apocalypse. She was mean from the get go. That woman was evil. I mean, if you really paid attention to that episode with Lydia, that woman was off her rocker from the get go. The girl was just so confused when she finally got the real story. She realized it was her mother that was evil. So, we were introduced to a character that wasn't made. She was already what she is now. Okay, what she did, she shaved her head. Oh my gosh, she looks like demented Uncle Fester, in my opinion, from the Addams Family. But she's just pure evil, and I think last week's episode showed that she will go to no lengths. I mean, she was about to leave a baby to get devoured by walkers in the field. She said, "We're animals." That's what she is. So I think and like I said, that was good in the sense that the storyline is stronger. They address I like the way they addressed the abuse issue with Lydia, even Daryl and Carol, because you got some of why Carol always wore her hair short, um, and Daryl actually having to confront his demons. It was handled very well. I am very pleased with what they're doing with the show right now. The only problem I have is that they can't drag it out. The other thing, besides the departures that's killing the show, is that season 7, season 8, it dragged on for too long. All Out War shouldn't have been as long as it ended up being, and I think because Gimple decided to kill off Chandler, that's why it lasted so long. Because the rumors were from the beginning that it was only going to be half a season, and they were going to move right on to the Whisperers. But with the facts coming about Andrew Lincoln's departure, he wanted to leave in season 8, but when he found out, because Gimple contacted him, called him directly and said they were killing off Chandler, So for him to decide to stay another half season because he didn't want the fans to go through the 1-2 punch of losing both Paul and then Rick. Because if you really look at season 8 and you see all the flashbacks with Rick throughout the entire season, you almost got a feeling like somewhere around episode 9 that Rick was the one that was dying, and it was his flashbacks he was seeing, and then we were gut punched and realized it was Carl that was dying. So for he didn't want to do it, and then the contract negotiation fiasco that caused Norman Cohan to leave, and now Denai has already indicated she will be leaving, and I don't blame her. And then the rumor that I'm trying to establish whether it's true or not, that they have told Kari Payton that he will be leaving either the end of this season or in sometime in season 10. The show has lost a lot of characters that were, I'll say, better developed than some of these characters that's been on the show for maybe a season or two, in which we actually associate with, we are familiar with, and we can identify with. And right now, we're only left with Tara, maybe Aaron, who we haven't seen for a while, Daryl and Carol. Characters that either don't exist or already dead in the Walking Dead comics. And comic readers are really, and fans in general, are really not comfortable with the fact that maybe Daryl's running the show, because he's not, even now, he doesn't see himself, he's not being groomed to be a leader. Okay, he's forced to be at the hilltop right now. One, because Carol asked him, and two, because Michonne did tell him that she sees him as the only one being able to do the things that need to be done. So he's in a position that he's not comfortable with. Daryl is one of those people that should be out in the world doing whatever he do with Dog and all that.
And
So
unfortunately, the most charismatic leader of them all is in jail, in Negan, and even
um,
though he would be just because the actor involved that plays Negan is so good and has such a long history and has that type of charisma on screen that could potentially be someone that, okay, let's make him the face of our show. Unfortunately, he has so much ill will from the fans from obviously what he did to, 3 seasons ago, that it's going to be hard even with his performance and his character having so much draw in power potential, that it would be really hard for him to go ahead and be the face of that show. I say,
at,
because if you told me exactly who do you think should be the face of the show, I'm going to say Negan, because of the fact that he has the embodiment of what you would probably ask for. But unfortunately, he has so much baggage in as far as the viewers' minds that even he would be a tough choice. Daryl just doesn't do it for a lot of people because the fact that he's been such a supporting character for such a long time, and people don't see him stepping up to the plate as someone that they can take seriously. As far as Carol, her character, she's obviously been great, and a lot of people had a lot of hopes for her to step up. But is she still look like at this point in time, her character, does she still want to go ahead and become that type of individual? Lori Cohen, you talked about her and her departure. Now doing Whiskey Cavalier, it got off to an okay start, right around exactly what The Walking Dead got. But if that's the beginning of where Whiskey Cavalier's ratings are at, as you and I both know, most of the time shows like that have a tendency to trend down, and it depends on exactly how far and how fast it will go down as
right.
far as the ratings are concerned. So Lori Cohen, her future could be in doubt as far as her show is concerned as well. And to be honest with you, Whiskey Cavalier, that just sounds like, to me, as far as my years of watching television, like a show. The show itself is okay, but the actual title just sounds like something it would sound like it would be canceled after a short period of time.
Yeah.
But I
But
will say this. Well, go ahead.
even
I'm
with
sorry.
that, even with her show not doing well, it's always the question as to whether or not she wants to come back. Now, she is slated to come back at some point, and
Maybe the
they
movies,
haven't.
perhaps?
Well, she's slated to come back to The Walking Dead in season 10. It's rumored. It's been stated that Angela Kang is actually writing as if Maggie's coming back, but again, that depends on the actress herself. Does she want to come back full time to a show that I'll say the heads that be treated her so badly as far as a contract? Um, I
But look
wouldn't
her
think so.
but her options, her her movie with Mark Wahlberg did not connect with audiences. It all
No.
depends on Whiskey Cavalier. Yeah, she could also find another show. She could start what you and I have seen over the years with actors and actresses where they go TV show hopping until they actually either fade into obscurity or actually end up finding a hit where they just go ahead and make the rounds on. You'll see them on one TV show that doesn't pan out. They keep on another TV show that doesn't pan out. But she's living off the fame of her Walking Dead. If, like you said, is true, and she was mistreated greatly, and that's obviously the reports as well that she was mistreated greatly in her environment in the latter stages of her career with The Walking Dead. So she may not want to return to the show, and that is a very good likelihood, very good possibility as well. And the
Hmm.
future is definitely in doubt right now when it comes to The Walking Dead. You and I
Right.
have talked in the past about it ending around season 12, and that was the way it was looking. Does it still look like it
But
at this point, or does it look like something even shorter for The Walking Dead?
now with the departure of Deny, I get the feeling that they're treating it as the show will end with season 10. Now, don't quote me on this because I have no idea what's going to happen.
No, but you're
But
making a reasonable assumption, a reasonable
yeah,
guess.
I mean
And I'm
because
living
this is
here in Vegas. We make reasonable assumptions and guesses all the time.
you're right. And my thing is that you really can't carry a show but so long with multitudes of characters being killed off for sake of story. That's the rumor about Kari is that he was told he didn't ask to leave. The rumor is that he was told he was being written out. Um, Unfortunately for the comic readers, we know what happens to Ezekiel character as well as Rosita. I'm more leaning towards that Rosita will depart because her storyline is actually matching her comic arc one for one because now she's pregnant and the father is Sadiq. Um, that's very important because all this is leading towards her signifying that she will die at in the how should I say it, the climactic. People know that there's a fair coming. This is where Rosita and Ezekiel are supposed to die. Now, I'm not sure about Ezekiel. I'm more worried about Henry right now. I won't even go into that. Boy, we would need a whole hour for Henry, but Henry is not Carl. Okay, Henry is doing some very dangerous things, and he's putting himself in grave danger right now, for lack of a better word. But before we go, I want to backtrack to what you were saying about Negan. Negan is going to redeem himself. Negan, I don't think he will ever become a leader on the scale of Rick. As far as people wanting him to lead a group, but we haven't seen the last of Negan. We haven't seen the last of that character. Right now he's in his cell because he chose to go back. He made a conscious decision that, there's nothing out here for him in this world. The world has changed. The world is prospering and they do not need, and he, I guess, doesn't want to go back to what he was. So what is there left for Negan to do? Well, Negan is going to be Negan. What happens next with the Whisperers is really going to, how should I say, reintroduce us to the character of Negan. And people are going to like Negan 2.0. Um, he is not the same person. I mean, from my point of view, as far as Negan goes, okay, yeah, he, like I said, he did something terrible. But who on that show hasn't? I mean, we look at it, we look at it, I'll say we have a very, I'll say, because this, even the showrunners want us to believe we're very short-sighted in our how we I'm trying to think of the word, how we judge people or relate to people on this show. We're very short-sighted. Negan came in as a very bad guy, and he was, but he did it for a purpose. Like I said, he was the top villain because he killed, and it wasn't really that he killed people; it was the manner that he did it. He made a show of it. He made a spectacle of it, and he did enjoy it a little bit too much for people to be comfortable with and want to forgive him for it. But I'm going to say this: you're going to see a change in Negan, and he will never be the leader that people would hope he would be, not because he's selfish, but because of that stigma he has attached to his that universe. But he will become an asset to the group. So I'm going to leave it at that as far as Negan. Now, as far as this show goes, I do, and not that I hope that it ends in season 10, because I'm one of those people, I would love for the show to go on forever. But as far as being able to provide a quality show that we all love and will still enjoy, I think they should end it with season 10, because we're getting to the point where there's nobody there we can relate to. We can relate to Carol, because she still hasn't changed. I mean, yeah, she got the long hair now, but she's still Carol. Daryl, he's not somebody people will look to as far as a leadership position. And like I said, with Michonne Lee, Aaron, they're grooming to be Rick 2.0, because if you read the comics, you know what happened to Rick. You know that the governor cut off Rick's arm. So, and actually, Ross does look like comic book Rick.
And
But
I've
where
said
is
before that Aaron is someone that maybe everyone could rally behind, and that audiences
Mhm.
could rally behind. But it all depends on if the writers and producers actually go ahead and put him into that spotlight. But it could
And
be
then
worse.
even if he wants to, because Ross is actually a pretty good actor too. We people don't know it, but he was actually in the last Avengers
That's right,
Xfinity War.
playing the Red Skull. Indeed, yes.
Yes.
I will say this: it could be worse, my friend. You could be Dan Fogler, who right now is actually in the capture of the Whisperers, and with Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald performing extremely poorly for the series. You're probably wanting to go ahead and be alive as much as you can on the show, because you don't know where to turn next when it comes to Fantastic Beasts and that future for that series. But need I digress? It is
Now,
the walk.
did you know this little bit of trivia? Did you know that Samantha Morton, who plays Alpha, was also in that movie?
Ah, no, I was not aware of that.
She was in the first one with Dan Fogler. They are actually very good friends.
Ah, okay. Well, she did a tremendous job in Minority Report. I think a lot of people
Oh,
remember her from
that's all
that.
people are talking about on the fan base and in other groups, is that she is really a very well known, high caliber actress, and she has taken this role somewhere that people did not expect. I mean, come on, really think about it. I have been watching this show since it started in 2010, and this is the most creeped out I have been and the most excited I have been for a season in about 2 years.
And that's saying something, because there's still been a lot going on. But even if this show closes out, I think you and I will probably go back upon it and say maybe the Whisperer should have come a little bit sooner in the series, and maybe that alone in itself could have salvaged the show and made it even stronger for even more years to come. But
Well,
we're not there
I will
yet.
say. I will say that now. If they had introduced the Whisperers a season ago, even if Carl had died, it would have actually saved some of the viewers. I mean, because what it was is that we had in season 7, we had the gut punch with Abraham and Glenn's death, and then we had 10 episodes of nothing. It was like, okay, this is just a little bit too much talk, a little bit too much lull until they killed Spencer. Okay, fine. So we had 7 episodes of really just nothing. People were bored. And then it picked up. And then we had season 8. We had the long, drawn out, all out war, which people were surprised because, like I said, the word on the vine was that Gimple had promised that all out war would not last a whole season. But it did. So people felt let down, I'll say, by the showrunner in itself during season 8 and started leaving because he promised us something he didn't give us. And then he went ahead and killed off Carl Grimes. I mean, my whole thinking about that whole situation was that, okay, yes, everybody goes through their ups and downs in their careers. He was transitioning from a teenager to a young man. Of course, he may not have been as, how should I say, as good as maybe they thought he should be. But I'm not going to lie, in season 7 and 8, he actually impressed me with his acting skills because he was believable. When he wanted to go kill Negan and he jumped out the car and killed him, I believed it. I felt it. So we'll never know the full story about what happened with him. But like I said, I believe outside of Glenn and Abraham getting killed, people left because of the way it was done, but people started coming back because the ratings did start going up after, I'll say, towards the end of season 7. But then with the rumor coming out and then the rumor becoming true that Paul Grimes was exiting the show, people just threw their hands up in the air. It was just too much. It was like, come on, really? This kid is supposed to be the future of the show. That's what they kept on saying for years. And like I said, the long, drawn out war. I mean, I'm not going to say it was a bad season 8 because it was actually pretty well done to an extent. It wasn't like any lulls in the storyline. It just kept going, going, going from the first episode. It was action packed. It was realistic. It was good acting. It was good storytelling. But it was just that it lasted so daggone long. People was like, okay, this is enough. And then it's kind of like they showcased Negan to the point where people got sick of him. People just kept on constantly talking about kill Negan, because they were just tired of his, I'll say, dramatic flair, his long epilogues and speeches. It was like, can you just shut him up? I mean, I was entertained because, first of all, I love the actor. And secondly, I read the comics. So I knew this was one of those situations where they actually took something directly from the comics and it didn't pan out as well because the audience they are presenting to was like, come on, let's just get to the action. Let all this dialogue doesn't mean anything. And, it was unfortunate. They took a risk, not with the character itself, but with how they wrote him, where it didn't pay off well. So now we have season 9, which is actually, I'll say, one of the best seasons, I'll say, since season 5. And now it's like they're trying to rebuild something that shouldn't have been lost for so long. If it had been, like I said, the plan was to do half a season for All Out War because in the comics, it really wasn't that long of a war. I mean, they had the time jump. It wasn't that big of a war. The Whisperer War is way bigger than what we got with All Out War. And now it seems like they're condensing that because, like I said, it looks to me like season 10, they may be closing up shop. So they want to move on to the next storyline, which is actually people remember Georgie, where we will see her again in season 10. So, it seems like now that they're condensing stuff and moving it ahead because Here's a little spoiler alert. We will see Alpha's second in command, Beta, next episode. Truly bad guy from Sons of Anarchy is playing Beta, and we were not supposed to see him until after All Out War ended, but they're bringing him in now. And the reason behind that, here's another spoiler alert. I mentioned Henry. Well, Henry ain't gonna make it out of this season. So you'll have to see what happens to Henry, but I've already seen some of what is rumored to happen, and it's Henry is going to be the reason why All Out War starts, not because of because of his stupid decision to go after Lydia, because he already left the hilltop, but what happens as a result of his leaving, which we will see next week. And the last thing I guess I'll touch on is that the big thing that everybody is talking about on Facebook and in the groups and all the Walking Dead groups is about those scars that Daryl and Michonne have. You remember the scars?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
that story is going to be told in episode 14. So we are going to get closure on why they have their scars, why there was such dissension between Maggie and Michonne. And if you notice, when they got the charter last week from Tara, the hilltop was not included originally. Ezekiel wrote them in at the later on. We're going to get an explanation to all that, which I am glad it's going to happen sooner rather than later. So, like I said, right now it looks like things are being, how should I say, a lot of the unknowns are being resolved and condensed to give us, hopefully, if next season is going to be its last season, it's going to go out on a good note, as opposed to trying to drag it out for two more seasons and they can't come up with relevant storylines because of the remaining cast. Because, like I said, I do see Rosita leaving. I see Rosita getting her comic book story arc. Ezekiel is a question mark because if they go ahead and kill Henry, I'm not sure that they're going to do Carol that way and kill both her son and her husband. So we'll see, but it's interesting. It's a really good season so far. If to all the people out there, if you haven't been looking at it, I highly recommend you look at it now because it's just going to escalate. I mean, like I said, I'm a hardcore fan. I've been watching it faithfully for 10 years now because it came out in 2010, 9 years. And I'm excited for this season. And that's really not something I say lightly because if you remember way back when me and Jerry first started talking, it was like kind of ho hum. Okay, well, you know what, this season is not great. But now I see a good season on the horizon, and I just hope it gets better and we're not let down.
Well,
So,
it
Jerry, I know you're short for time, so
oh, no worries,
we
but
can
I
wrap
just
it
say,
up.
well, I'll leave you with this. When it comes to the ratings and it comes to everybody that used to watch and whatnot, when it comes to the show itself, The Walking Dead, and the ratings and everybody viewing it, as you know, and as you've seen over the course of the years with many TV shows, once people leave a show, it's very hard to get them back, no matter how good the story becomes, or no matter how good the story changes for the better. And it is a better storyline when it comes to the Whisperers, and obviously one of the best, and in your opinion, the best villain that's ever graced The Walking Dead in Alpha, which everybody, and I agree with you, everybody should give this storyline at least a couple episodes a chance with the Whisperers in Alpha because she is so polarizing and so good to watch. She has captivated the show entirely, and like I said, I hope everybody does give it at least The Walking Dead another chance before it fades into the moonlight, possibly as early as season 10. But it is always great talking to you. Another outstanding, as far as line of information that's brought to you from our good friend Daphne Matthew. She is one of the heads of Talking the Dead on Facebook. Also, as well, the Walking Dead fan base, over 50,000 strong when it comes to the Walking Dead fan base of crazed TWD fans that are out there. If you want to be a part of either Talking the Dead 18 plus or the Walking Dead fan base, just go to Facebook, be a part, just join the group, be a part of the fun. There's a lot of conversation that's always flowing. They also have periods of time where they go ahead and black it out for people out there so that everybody can catch up on the show before they put in their 2 cents as far as what's going on with the series as a whole. They keep you up to date on all the news, all the rumors, all the innuendo, and all the great things that are going on with The Walking Dead. And it's all headed up by you, Daphne. And I'll tell you what, I am so privileged as always to have you on the show. Just so great catching up with you when it comes to The Walking Dead. And I hope that the TWE starts a path upward instead of downward as far as the trend has continued for quite some time. I hope it, with the Whispers and Alpha, it actually gets a chance to go upward in
Well,
the near future.
yeah, well, I think the last, I'll say 3 weeks, we've had split viewership because first we had Super Bowl, then we had the NBA All Star Weekend, which is big amongst male viewers, and then last week we had the Academy Awards. So hopefully, now that all the major things that are outside the Walking Dead universe are gone for a while, that we will actually see people coming back to the show that was looking at it and then maybe, like I said, slacked off for a couple of weekends because sports is a big thing, and sports is a big thing, especially for male viewers. They're not all into Daryl where they're going to sit there and give up the Super Bowl or NBA All Star Weekend for Daryl. So, having said that, I see a great season on the horizon, like I said before, and I hope people tune in. We will talk again. I think we'll be talking sooner rather than later because, like I said, this show is hot right now.
Well,
This
this is a key
storyline,
weekend. You're right. This is a key weekend because there is no All Star game, no Oscars, and no Super Bowl to compete against. So this is a very key weekend for The Walking Dead. And I don't want to say
and it's
it's
a
do or die,
big
but
episode to add to that. This is a huge episode, so we'll see what the ratings say. I'm not, like I said, I don't give my faith into ratings because the demographics. Okay, for the demographics, amongst 18 to 49 is still the highest viewed show on TV. The problem is that, like I said, we had a whole lot of sporting events, and then the older people look at the award shows. I didn't. I DVR'd it because I'm total deadhead. So we'll see what happens, but I think now that people have really seen what Alpha is capable of, if they looked at last week's Sunday's episode, they're going to be more interested. I mean, like I said, this woman is pure evil. I mean, it scares me. I sit on the edge of my seat every Sunday because I'm like, this can't be happening. And it's surprisingly, it was happening right before our eyes. So we'll see what happens. I mean, and then, like I said, we have people now that DVR shows just because they can. And then we have people, I mean, we have 56,000 members in the fan base, and pretty much 20% of our audience is from the UK because that's where the group was formed, from a gentleman who's no longer with us in the UK and his wife at the time. So, I mean, we have thousands of people who are not included in the demographics because they just don't happen to live in the US, or they're not part of the focal group that's being, how should I say, calcu- um, calculated as far as the viewership or part of the ratings. So, there's a lot of things that skew the ratings. So I don't really, really pin my hopes and dreams on the show based on the ratings because if you go to the groups, if you go to the boards, the excitement is still there. I mean, people are talking every day. It's not like, okay, we have all our admins trying to keep the board alive. There are people out there talking in these groups. And so, as long as that is happening, in my opinion, the show is still relevant. And with that, like I said, I hope that people start tuning in because You're going to be shocked. I mean, if you're already scared now, you're going to be really scared in the next couple of episodes. So I will give it my seal of approval. I think season 9 is doing great. I think Angela Kane is giving us some of the best stories we've had in 2 or 3 years. And I'm looking forward to the remaining season.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm looking forward to more people checking out The Walking Dead and returning to that world and universe that The Walking Dead has, because the Whispers and Alpha are making it happen, and making it happen indeed for The Walking Dead. Daphne, Matthew, it's just so great as always to have you on the show. Part of the program, as always. You and I are always talking everything pop culture, so obviously you're going to come back on real soon. We've got a
Yes,
lot coming up
sir.
when it comes to a lot of other stuff going on as well, with Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, Shazam. Pop
Oh
culture is
my
still
gosh.
exploiting all over the place, so I got to
There
have you
are
back on real
20
soon.
there are 20 Marvel movies coming out this year, starting with Captain Marvel. So
Yes, and I'm looking forward to that.
we're gonna be talking a lot because a lot of these movies are either introducing a new part of the universe or closing the door on the current universes, and I just can't wait to see what happens with the Marvel universe. Okay.
I can't either. And again, I'm also looking forward to what's going on with the Walking Dead universe as well.
Oh,
Daphne,
absolutely.
absolutely indeed. Daphne, it's just always so great to have you on the show. Again, follow her and everything that she's doing on Talking the Dead 18 plus, and also the Walking Dead fan base on Facebook. If you really are into the show, like so many others, in fact, in the Walking Dead fan base, it's over 50,000 strong. You got to check it out today on
That's
Facebook.
right. Come talk with us. We always open.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've seen the hours that you put into it. So yes, I know it is always open when it comes to The Walking Dead. Daphne, it's just so great to have you on the show and part of the pop culture cosmos.
Thanks for having me again.